Favorite childhood songs. It's something like this. It's in Hebrew. Im atem mishamerim nerot shel Shabbat shel Shabbat. Im atem mishamerim nerot shel Shabbat shel Shabbat. Ani mareh lachem nerot shel Zion shel Zion. It's hard to sing when you're running, but Ani mareh lachem nerot shel Zion shel Zion. Loosely translated, there's a phrase, a quote in the Midrash and the Talmud. God promises the Jewish people, Im atem mishamerim nerot shel Shabbat. If you will observe, be careful about the Shabbat candles, Ani mareh lachem nerot shel Zion. I will show you the candles of Zion, of the rebuilt Jerusalem. This week's parsha, Beha'alot'cha. It's Beha'alot'cha et hanerot. Doesn't necessarily talk directly about Shabbat candles, but it does talk about illuminating candles. The original candelabra, which is the Menorah. The very first word of the parsha, after the introduction by Rebbe, God spoke to Moses saying, is Beha'alot'cha el hanerot. You should tell Aaron, tell your brother, the high priest Aaron, and the Kohanim, the priests in charge of the temple services, Beha'alot'cha et hanerot. When you will, ha'alot'cha, when you will, what does that mean? Beha'alot'cha means when you will raise up, when you will uplift, et hanerot, the candles, talking about the menorah, el mul penei ha-menorah, towards the center of the menorah should be directed Ya'iru shivat hanerot. All the 7 candles should light. So there's 7 branches on the candelabra in the Holy Temple. And God is telling Moshe, tell your brother Aaron, in your daily service, every single day, Alot ner tamid, there had to be a continual light and a daily rekindling of the menorah. And he gave a bunch of instructions. The Rebbe, in this incredible, fascinating attention to detail, finds lessons for each of the details, the detailed instructions that God gave Aaron in lighting the menorah and kindling the menorah to our day-to-day life. And here I'm in Central Park, New York City, Chaim Oleski, running together with a Canadian goose. Right over here. Oh, Papa. Would you like to say something? We're learning Torah. Okay. That was my ADD. Okay. We're going back to our topic at hand. So, what were the details? What was the instruction? We'll go through the details of how God instructed Aaron to light the menorah in the Torah, and the characteristics of a candle and a flame, and then we'll apply it to our lives. The Rebbe says this is if there's one important lesson we can take out of all of the Rebbe's teachings, it's that the Torah is kihem chayenu. It is our life. It's our source of life. It is our guide. It's our compass. It's our moral compass. It's our family compass. And so too, the Rebbe would constantly say, Torah milashon hora'ah. The Torah comes from the word hora'ah, which means lesson. And therefore, we need to learn every word of the Torah is a lesson. Not just the stories from which we can learn lessons, but even a detail in an instruction is a lesson for our day-to-day life. So, getting right to it. Beha'alot'cha. When you will raise up, the Rebbe asks, and of course all the biblical commentators talk about this and say the word to ignite in Hebrew is behadlikcha. Behadlikcha. When you light Shabbat candles every Friday night, you say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'tzatav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat Kodesh, or lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov, for the holidays. The word lehadlik is known. Ask any Israeli, any child, how do you say ignite, to light a candle? They say, the word is lehadlik. The Torah doesn't use that word. It says Beha'alot'cha. That's the obvious question, why? What lesson is the Torah teaching us with the word Beha'alot'cha rather than using the common expected word Beha'adlikcha? That's question number one. Moving on. El mul Pnei Menorah. It has to be towards the center of the Pnei Menorah. Key word Pnei. Pnei also means face. It also means internal, Pnimiyut of the menorah. The candles had to be directed towards the center of the menorah. We'll learn about that soon. It had to be done Yair Shivat Hanirot. There were 7 branches. They all had to be ignited. And what is the significance of that? And it had to be daily. And last but not least, it had to be done, ignited and illuminated by the Kohen Gadol Aharon HaKohen, the high priest. Aaron was the high priest. What was special about Aaron? And what characteristics did he bequeath us, the rest of the Jewish people? And here the Rebbe goes on and shows how all the details of the mitzvah of lighting up the menorah parallel our day-to-day lives' responsibilities in illuminating ourselves and the world. How so? Says the Rebbe, Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. There's a pasuk. There's a verse in the Tehillim. It says, Ner Hashem, King David wrote, Ner Hashem, the flame of God, Nishmat Adam, is the soul of man. Our soul, our neshama, is a flame, it's a candle. And there's so many different paradigms and examples of how that is, that you can have the body being the candle, the oil is the mitzvot, the wick is your soul, the fire is the passion in which you do it, and many, many different versions of that. But basically, we are candles. We are godly candles, and we need to be ignited the way the menorah, and to ignite, others the way it happened at the menorah too, which was, number one is Beha'alot'cha. Let's look at that word, that unexpected word, Beha'alot'cha. It doesn't say Beha'adlikcha, when you will light. It says when you will raise up. Rashi and the biblical commentators say this means that if Aaron the priest will light the menorah and walk away and the flame will extinguish, then he did not fulfill his biblical requirement. He has to make sure that Adshe Tehei Shal Hevet Ola Me'elaha. He has to make sure that the flame will rise and be independent from its igniter. Shall have it. Ola Me'elaha. It has to go up in flame by itself. And then once it's independent, he can walk away. Says the Rebbe, looking more in the details of the candles, when you light, playing on the words Ola also, which means rising up or going up, or enabling to rise. That a candle, if you light a candle and you put the flame at the wick, right at the tip of the wick, the flame doesn't stay right there. The flame immediately rises upwards and it grows beyond the wick, which is the candle, the flame shouting, I exist. I am independent. I don't need you anymore to ignite me. And now, says the Rebbe, this candle is illuminating its surroundings for Shabbos. And afterwards, it not only does it illuminate the darkness around it, but it also can light other candles, ignite other flames, and it seeks out yet unlit candles to illuminate them, to ignite their spark and light their wick, and make them again in turn an independent source of light, of illumination, a lamplighter, an igniter, an illuminator. And these are some of the details. The Rebbe goes on and talks about this and says that the candle, just like the menorah, had 7 branches on it. So too, every Jew is one of those branches. There are 7 kinds of Jews. It's written in the Kabbalah, the mystical teachings, and each one is represented by a different branch of the menorah. And generally speaking, it's the different characteristics and character traits that govern our functioning as human beings, as Jews, in our service to God. So some operate through the channel of kindness, some through the channel of severity or strictness or strength, and some through beauty, some through victory, and some through royalty, and some through charisma, some through glory, etc., etc. Everyone in their own way. Aaron had to illuminate 7 branches which parallel 7 kinds of Jewish people, because we are that light. So we learned so far we need to be able to ignite others in our service to God. You see another Jew who is a yet unlit candle. It's our job to illuminate that Jew with whatever we know. You know Aleph, says the Rebbe, teach Aleph. You know Bet, teach Bet. But if you don't know the whole Aleph Bet, don't wait until you learn the whole Aleph Bet. Teach what you know right away. And have your friend teach others too, becoming an illuminator and igniter. So the Rebbe says further on, we have all the different types of Jews represented by the 7 branches of the Menorah. Now all of these branches had to face, the 3 on the right and 3 on the left had to be facing the flames, faced the center. El mul penei ha-menorah, towards the center of the menorah. Says the Rebbe, the word penei means face and center. Also is pnimiyut, the innermost core, the inside. We have to ignite in ourselves and in other Jews the core, the essence of our Judaism, so that that will spread and illuminate our externals, our action, our thoughts, speech and deeds, our mindset, our emotions, all the way through our actions. Mul penei ha-menorah. And the Rebbe goes on and says, regarding the penei ha-menorah, how do you reach the core of a Jew? You reach it through Torah. Only through Torah can you reach the core of a Jew. And within the Torah itself, the core of the Torah, the essence of the Torah, is actually the teachings of Chassidus. Says the Rebbe, the greatest illuminator are the teachings of Chassidus. They are the essence of the Torah, the core of the Torah, and they illuminate the person at its core, and the light spreads to the rest of the world. And who does this? It's Aharon the Kohen. And this is one of our students over here.
Oh my God. Hello.
Say hello. It's Carly, right?
Yeah.
Carly's one of our Hebrew school students, and now she's a big girl going to college, but she started at Chabad, and also probably exercising her mind, body, and soul, just like we always do. So the Rebbe says further, who was the illuminator? It was Aaron the Kohen. Aaron excelled in a lot of things, but specifically was most famous for his Avat Yisrael, for his love of fellow Jew. Aaron would go out of his way to make peace between husband and wife, between friends, even committing the crime of a white lie and going over to one person and saying, you know, your friend really wants to be friends with you, but he's just too shy or embarrassed to say so. Please come, let's talk to him. And I said, really? I didn't know that. I thought he was angry with me. And then he would make peace between them, and he'd go to both parties and do the same thing, even if it wasn't superficially true. Because Aharon, the lover of the Jewish people, he knew that internally it's true. Every Jew loves another completely, 100%, and has only the best interest of another Jew in mind. Jews for God. Hey, that was a close one. Anyway, moving on. So the Rebbe says that Aaron was the Kohen Gadol and the high priest. That was in the times of the temple. Now we don't have the temple, and we're in exile. We're in Golus. Says the Rebbe. The Torah says, God says to the Jewish people, Vatem, and you plural, every one of you, G-dly Lamplighter Kohanim v'goy kadosh. You will be for me a kingdom of priests. You are now my Kohanim. Every Jew is a Kohen, is a servant. Kohen means servant to God. And we are all charged and given the ability to love our fellow Jews as we love ourselves. And the Rebbe actually said that this is not just a Jewish teaching, this illuminating charge from God to illuminate others is for Jew and non-Jew alike. Jewish people, specifically with the 613 mitzvot, non-Jews with the 7 Noahide laws, as they're taught in the Torah. Finally, the Rebbe says that how is this all done the most effectively is through Jewish education. Jewish education. We send our kids to Jewish camps for the summer. Make sure they're Jewish camps that will inspire them for the rest of the year, and Jewish day schools as best as you can. And if there's a will, there's a way. And if you know a Jewish child who won't go to Jewish day school because it's too costly, help pay for it, sponsor it. And God forbid if Jewish children don't go to Jewish day schools, we have Hebrew schools. We have Chabad Hebrew schools everywhere, like we do here in Manhattan on the west side. Chabad family programs. We have a bunch of Hebrew schools for the net. And that's the story for today. So we are all lamplighters, we are igniters, we are illuminators, and we have a big world out there to go ahead and illuminate ourselves and others. Shabbat Shalom. Have an illuminating Shabbos. Share this, please.